I would like to call to order the February 9th board meeting of Montgomery County Planning Commission. And we will check in. Stephen Klein, our chair, is out of the meeting today. He's very busy. He would like to be here, of course, but sometimes those real life commitments do take us away from the fun of our board. So let's make sure that we have all of our board members registered. Farina, do we have them all? Would you go off
Yes.
through the list, please?
We have Robert Blue, we have Jill Blumhart, we have Jonathan Rindy, and Nicole Klein.
Very good. Well, thank you, everyone. And we may have members of the public on our Zoom today. We welcome you if any of you are there. And as we move forward, when we get into public comment, please note that we would be very happy to hear comments when appropriate. And we just ask that you identify yourself and the community in which you reside. I'd like to also let everyone know that we're recording this meeting. And I think it is always available online, is it not, Farina?
Yes.
Okay, great. So our first order of business is to approve our minutes from our last board meeting in January, a reorganization board. Do I have a motion for their approval?
Dulce, this is Nicole. I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
Thank you very much, Nicole. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jonathan. Any comments, edits, or concerns? Bob, could you mute yourself?
He's muted.
Okay. And then I will call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? I think we'll call just for objections, since we know who's in attendance. It'd be easier to do it that way. Are there any objections to accepting the minutes as presented? Hearing none, they can be accepted. Are there any board comments that we'd like to make at this time? Everyone's happy and content? That's good. That's great. So we will then go on to public comment. Do we have any members of the public who would like to comment or make their attendance known? If you just would like to state that you are on the call, we're certainly glad to welcome you personally. Okie doke, we're a small group today, but we're the army of the willing, as I say. Let's move on to Horsham Township. Eric?
And Eric had to step away to a family emergency, so I'm gonna cover this for him. And this is a contract, a 3-year municipal planning assistance contract, or community planning assistance contract. This one is, they're all special, but this one's a little extra special. It's for Horsham Township. We have not had a community planning contract with them before, or at least not in 20 years, I guess. And so they are bringing us on. We're going to be mainly focusing on a new comprehensive plan for them. And we've been, looking forward to working with Horsham and joining them in this capacity for a number of years, since we did do a short-term contract with them back in 2015 on their business park master plan. So this contract will begin on January 1st and goes 3 years as a standard to December 31st, 2024. Obviously, that comprehensive plan will be the bulk of the work items through the first 2 years, and then we'll focus on implementation of that plan, as well as general planning assistance throughout that time. And we'll hear more about Horsham in the future in a separate presentation, but obviously they have big things going on. The Naval Air Station, which is still proceeding, still going through some environmental issues, but we might start seeing early phases of that development in the near horizon. And all the other things going on with their business parks and the school district as well. So you have a resolution to adopt that recommends approval of this contract, and then it'll go to the county commissioners as the standard. The total amount of the contract is $102,816. The 50% share paid by the municipality will be $51,708. Any questions?
Okay, I do have a question. Let me present the resolution, then I'll ask the question.
Okay.
Resolution number 22-2.1, on a planning assistance grant to Horsham Township. Are there any questions? Let me ask for a second. To move the
Second.
Second.
I did this out of order, I'm dyslexic. Let's move it first and then second, and I think that would be a better idea. Can we move it first?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, and the second. I think we have the second already, if you can keep that.
I'll second that motion.
I'm sorry, folks. I think we did it, I remember, that's how old I am. I remember when we did have one, a contract with this community. What did Horsham do in between? Did they just bring in private planners for contracts?
They had a consultant, they did do a comprehensive plan back in 2011, so a little over 10 years ago. They've, in recent years, have found, definitely found the need to have that updated,
Has leadership changed in the township or?
Not so much. I know it's still kind of the same party, and I believe the main people that were there, I was very active there in 2015. I think it's
Right.
still a lot of the same people.
Right, yeah.
Still going.
Okay, very good.
And I should acknowledge too, Bill Walker's the manager. He has been there through that time.
Right.
And does a really great job.
Yes, he does a great job. He's an active manager and a very kind of progressive manager. And he's interested in new ideas, innovative, I guess would be the word.
And he really pushed for this contract as well. And I think we thank him for getting it through.
Terrific. So I'll call vote. Are there any objections to moving this resolution?
No objection.
Very good. Thank you. Let's move it on to the county commissioners. And now, Dan. I see you someplace. There you are, right in Center City. Where are you, Dan? Your background. No.
No, that's actually our county building.
Is it? Oh, it's so tiny up there. Oh, yes. Look, it's so beautiful. It looks like a metropolitan center now that it is all has a new dress on, right?
Right. All right. Today, I'm just going to be here to discuss the 2021 annual summary. I'm going to present it through our story map, which is a digital product that we offer to the community to kind of digest this information. And for the last couple of years, I presented it in this format, and we're gonna do it again this year. So we're gonna discuss what we do each January, which is we perform a study of all new land development, subdivision, and zoning change proposals submitted during the prior year. So in this case, 2021. We tally up all the acres, square feet, and new units proposed, and we produce this annual summary report document, which you should all have had in your board packet. This report reflects proposal plans only, not actual construction activity. Those reports will come in the next couple months. I'll deliver those soon. We use this to indicate areas of the county that are and may experience development in the future. In addition to the data that we mentioned above, the MCPC also measures how much development has taken place on previously developed parcels. So this helps us gauge how much infill is taking place in the county and understand different developer trends. So first up, we're going to talk about just the overall number of submissions. So in 2021, we had a 17.4% growth in the number of proposals to 473 from 403. So a little bit of a pandemic likely affected dearth last year compared to this year. We also saw an increase in the number of new proposals as well, 188, which is more in line with the average from the the last 10 years. You can see in the the map on the right that Lower Merion and Lower Salford had the highest amount of proposals. Lower Merion, I believe, had 48, and Lower Salford had 24. But there's a pretty even distribution across the county, and especially too in places like New Hanover, which are seeing, I think, a lot of developer interest for housing development because they have some relatively larger parcels available for bigger developments. The number of acres proposed for development in the county was 805 in 21. This to 2021. This is larger than last year, but about half of what you would have seen generally about a decade ago. Again, this is also because we're seeing less and less land available for larger scale development. So more of our development, even though we're proposing a good amount of units and a good amount of non-residential square footage, it's increasingly on already or partially developed land, which is a positive thing. 63% of all acres proposed for development in 2021 was residential. This is an increase from last year, which was 57%. After residential was industrial at 14 and commercial at 12%. The number of residential units proposed in 2021 was 5,100. This is the highest we've seen in the last 10 years, and it's really actually the highest since 2005, which I think that year was around 6,800 units proposed. And that was right before, obviously, the housing market bubble burst in the subsequent years. So this is a pretty, good indicator of a resurgent housing market in the county, despite some of the ongoing effects of COVID-19 on the development market. Lower Merion saw the most at 1,558 1,558 units, which is a significant amount. A lion's share of that was in the 1, 2, and 3 ballot proposals, which we will see in the coming slides. Multifamily developments continue to represent the largest percentage of proposals, as they have been for most of the years since the 2008 recession. Although this year, I would say it's leaps and bounds over attached and detached. There were over 3,500 units of multifamily proposed just last year. It's the highest by far in the last 10 years, and one of the highest possibly in the last 20 years. Also, attached development also saw some bigger proposals this year and cracked 1,000 units for the first time since 2019, which was the highest amount of attached proposed. So we're seeing increasingly too, if there are single family units proposed, they're more and more likely to be attached as opposed to detached, which generally consumes a little bit more land, of which we don't have as much of. 654 of the units were age restricted this year. It's about 13% of the total. This ranges in a given year anywhere from 6 to 25%. So, there's not really much of a trend. It kind of just ebbs and flows with the, peaks and valleys of the proposals of general housing units every year. So if there's more in one year, there's generally more age restricted proposed. But again, it can vary. I will say anecdotally that I often, and since starting here in 2016, I have received fairly regularly inquiries from developers to asking about our current pipeline of development in this category, to kind of gauge whether or not they, what the market's like and whether or not they want to build. I haven't received any of those calls in the last 6 months. So it's very possible that we're starting to see maybe a softening potentially in this market, as the market for just regular, oriented homes, market rate homes, has very much surged in the last 2 years due to a low inventory of existing houses for sale. Real quickly, we're going to take a look at the top 10 residential proposals in 2021. You can see that most of them were in, essentially our urbanized centers or our office parks, essentially. So Royersford, Ballackinwood, Conshohocken, Fort Washington Office Park. And then there's also 2 developments in Greenfields out west in New Hanover and Upper Pottsgrove. 2 of them were age restricted, including the one in Upper Pottsgrove and New Hanover, actually. They're both age restricted. 1, 2, and 3 Ballot Plaza. This is the big one, the big dog from last year. This is 757 multifamily units proposed amongst a number of buildings within the site of 1, 2, and 3 Ballot Plaza in Ballackinwood. So essentially the Ballackinwood office park. This proposal includes nearly 1 million square feet of commercial and private office development as well. So this is a monster of a development and would significantly remake the area along City Line Avenue and in Ballackinwood.
And Dan, I'll jump in knowing that one well. That is a 30-year master plan that was submitted, so keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, fair enough. Number 2 is 401 to 433 Washington Street. So this is actually a previous site of development. It was an industrial site along the waterfront in Conshohocken, and it had a previous proposal for development that was similar to this from O'Neill from, I think, 2015. That approvals for that have lapsed, and a new developer has come in and resubmitted this proposal. So it's 598 multifamily units. It's a pretty large development next to existing apartment development along the waterfront. Number 3 is Hanover Meadows. It's a 520 mixed type development of all 3, detached, attached, and multifamily. It's an age restricted development, and it's one of the few that's located on a greenfield site. It's adjacent to Big Road in New Hanover. Number 4 is 400 West Elm Street. This has been a kind of a popular one in local media. This is a 352 multi-unit multifamily development. It's infill. It's on a former, I think, gas station site, essentially, along the waterfront in Conshohocken, kind of on a promontory above the waterfront. The J. Drescher is one of 3 developments that we've seen this year crack the top 10 in either non-residential or residential proposals along Virginia Drive in this one block stretch, essentially. So this is the first one. This is a 310 multifamily unit redevelopment along Virginia Drive. It's in the Fort Washington Business Park in Upper Dublin. This very long named project is 104 through 198 West Lancaster Avenue. This is a very interesting development. It's a significant redevelopment of an existing block in downtown Ardmore, essentially. It's a 279 mixed-use multifamily development, and will also include a grocer as one of the anchor tenants. It includes an additional 61,000 square feet total of commercial space. Number 7 is 121 East City Avenue. This is directly adjacent to that 2 and 3 Ballot Plaza site. This is a 220 multifamily unit redevelopment of the former Lord and Taylor department store in Lower Merion. This development also includes over 16,000 square feet of commercial uses, which is something we're seeing now, I think, a lot more of, especially this year. We've seen is a significant amount of mixed use multifamily proposals. Very, very interesting development. The riverfront at Royersford is a 188 multifamily unit infill development adjacent to Main Street in Royersford Borough. This also includes an additional 24,000 square feet of commercial space in the project. Number 9 is the second of the 3 Virginia Drive proposals. This is for a 171 multifamily unit building, again, within the Fort Washington Business Park in Upper Dublin. And lastly, number 10 is the Krumerer parcel phase 2B. We saw phase 1A, I think last year or the year before. This is for 134 single family attached units, and this is part of an age restricted development in Upper Pottsgrove. So real quickly, we're going to talk about non-residential square footage that was proposed in 2021. So this year we saw over 3.7 million square feet proposed in Montgomery County. This is a 39% increase from the prior year, which is pretty good, and still well above the post-recession years. And this indicates, I think, a relatively stable market despite COVID-19's effect on non-residential land use, or at least its perceived effect, if people would have thought it had. 2021's market was definitely still influenced by the pandemic's disruption of the economy, but significant amounts of commercial, industrial, and even office space were still proposed. So this graph right here shows you, I think, the distribution between the different types. You can see that industrial was the highest this year at 1.6 million square feet. This is the second highest amount in the past 10 years and one of the highest in the last couple decades. Office proposals also saw a significant increase in 2021, but in all fairness, it's not really hard considering that we only had 10,000 square feet proposed last year. So I think it's just something like a 6,000% increase in the amount of non-resident office square footage. But in 2021, there were 732,000 square feet proposed, which is still a significant amount. Again, despite hybrid work schedules, new office proposals are still coming as the suburban market is less affected by the pandemic when compared with the urban office sector, which is definitely seeing more subleasing activity as well as just breaking of leases. Commercial proposals saw a larger amount of square feet proposed compared to last year as well at 960,000 square feet. That's a 24% increase, but still less than 1 million, which prior decades we were seeing easily over 1 million square feet a year. But we have a lot of retail or commercial square footage in the county to begin with. I think about 30, on average, about 35 square feet per person, which is well above the US average of 5. So I think we're pretty good. I think it actually shows generally how strong we are as a destination that we still build or propose to have this much proposal for commercial development. Industrial proposals accounted for just under half of non-residential square feet proposed in 2021, or 43%. Commercial was 26%, office 20%, and institutional 11%. The top 10 non-residential proposals in 2021, you can see here that a lot of them are in our, in our business park and office areas. There's a big cluster of, emerging industrial development in Hatfield. I mean, there's always been a significant cluster there, but it's continuing to build out. And we're seeing, 100,000, square foot plus proposals routinely come out of there and also complete construction. Number 1 is unique. It's the same one as number 1 for residential. It's the 989,000 square feet as proposed as a part of the 1, 2, and 3 Ballot Plaza redevelopment. So this is commercial and office again, like Scott said, over a phase 30 years, and again includes that over 750 multifamily units as well. Number 2 is 2501 and 2901 Renaissance Boulevard. This is technically a flex space of 362,000 square feet, and it's an infill development in the Renaissance Business Park in Upper Merion. 2512 Quakertown Road is a 166,000 square foot new industrial building adjacent to an existing facility in Upper Hanover. Number 4 is an interesting one. It's the Keith Valley Middle School and District Administrative Offices for the Hatboro Horsham School District. They're going to do the typical kind of school reconstruction where they, keep going to school in the existing building while they build a new facility on the existing athletic fields, as well as an administrative office there as well. Number 5 is 201 South Gulf Road. This is an industrial warehouse and distribution center in Upper Marion. This is, I think, it's an existing development, so it's a redevelopment of the site. Number 6 is the Campus Drive building expansion. This is 140,000 square feet, again, of industrial facility in an infill site in Hatfield Township. You can see that in the map indicator at the left, that it's that next to that black building. Number 7 is the third and final proposal for that stretch of Virginia Drive. It's a 118,000 square foot commercial proposal for a new self-storage facility. So not the most active commercial use, but a new commercial use nonetheless. And this is, again, located in the Fort Washington Business Park in Upper Dublin. Number 8 is an interesting one too. It's the St. Charles Borromeo Seminary. This is, I think, being relocated from Lower Marion, I believe, and it's 104,000 square feet of institutional space on the campus of Gwynedd Merced College in Lower Gwynedd. Number 9 is the Sterling Center business lot, 1B. You can see in the plan set on the right that the central building, the largest one, actually was already completed this past year, as we tracked in our quarterly construction report. The one proposed for development now is the one catty quarter to that. It's 100,000 square feet, and it's on a greenfield lot currently. And number 10 is another 100,000 square foot industrial warehouse proposed for a greenfield site also in Hatfield Township. So in conclusion, 2021 was a banner year for the proposal of new housing units and non-residential square feet within Montgomery County, especially considering the continued economic disruption of the COVID-19 pandemic. 5,100 housing units and over 3.7 million square feet of non-residential uses were proposed. This level of activity shows a resurgent market in Montgomery County, specifically too, especially for housing. So I'll take any questions that you may have or any comments.
Okay, this is a pretty dramatic presentation, Dan. I want to go through the board and ask each board member if they have questions. We'll start with Jonathan. Jonathan, do you have any questions? Okay, I guess not. Bob, do you have any questions?
You're muted, Bob.
Great, thank you. I'm kind of shocked at the amount of office space or new office space that was proposed, because from our perspective, and when I talk with our clients, they're like holding off on the office space because the work from home routine, things like that. So although, I guess it's been approved or has been submitted or, whatever, I'm not quite sure that it's going to get built. That's.
I'll comment on that, Bob, because it's a very good point, and there is a bit of a caveat to what Dan showed. As I mentioned, it is that most of that office came with that Bala development, and that is a long term. Having heard from the developer on that, they really are looking at having some flagship corporate headquarters occupied 2 like 15-story buildings within that. And they are phasing it on the early side, phase 1 and 2. So it's something that they're pursuing before some of the residential. But you're right, that's not an indication of the market having a flip back in favor of office. We're still dealing with other places like that.
And
that's fair. But in terms of leasing and buying activity in our market, especially compared to downtown Philadelphia, it is brisker than that. So I wouldn't necessarily count out continued office development. We also see a significant amount of development too in medical offices and things like that, which oftentimes can impose our office square footage as well too. So we're not necessarily building marquee large office buildings similar to what was just finished in Conshohocken necessarily, but yes.
Jill, do you have a comment?
No comments, thank you.
Nicole?
Thanks, Dulcie. I would echo, had some of the, same, questions or comments that Bob had, as well as I think in the industry, what we are seeing is the heavy pressure of the, distribution facility aspect. And we saw some of that, but maybe not quite as much as I would have expected in the current proposals. But I do expect that those will continue to come in for those industrial sites and a lot of infill type development. I'll just note, having joined this board in March, this is the first time that I am having the benefit of this annual presentation. And, it's great information, Dan. The story map, really, does its job to help tell the story and is a great mechanism. So thanks for the presentation and the information.
Thank you.
Very good. Now, Charlie's not with us?
He is now.
He is. Okay. Charlie, do you have anything to offer or ask? Charlie? Okay.
Asked to unmute him.
Charlie is still muted.
Is Charlie trying to offer a comment? Okay, we'll accept Charlie's whenever he's comfortable presenting it. For the moment, I just want to add, I think this is a report that we really have to look at. I think that it beckons to changes in our community that we've been seeing for the past several years. I think the multifamily housing will be impacting a lot of these communities. It's interesting because I was with a colleague yesterday, Oliver Bass from Natural Lands, and he said, and I think this is something we should listen to, that both in Chester and Delaware County, there is a new concern rising on sprawl development. Now, I haven't heard that in Montgomery County. Maybe it will, come to rise in conversation. What I do begin to hear the rumblings, and I think we've heard it for several years now, is the impact on communities of multifamily, the changing profile of communities with more high-rise traffic, just more urbanized areas, called urbanized with quotation mark, of places even like Royersford. So I think we just need to keep our eye on that, because I think it will impact the way people are thinking, what their needs and what their concerns are going to be, to see what we need to do to be ahead of the curve in Montgomery County. Thank you, Dan. It's always an interesting.
You do have Obed, who is.
Oh, Obed, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were here. Obed.
Hey, Dulcie.
Hi, Dulcie. Good morning, everyone.
We also have Jonathan.
Yeah, I am here.
Okay, we're going to circle back around. Obed, if you have something?
Yeah. Well, thanks, Dan, for the presentation. It is a lot of information to process.
Yeah.
As I was listening, it is a lot, but some of the things that struck to me, it was about what will be the impact in areas that are green. A lot of the construction I see at the development will be in the front water, in the waterfront areas. That means access to, to highways. That means traffic. What it means that for water storm management, what it means for school districts, the impact in what is the development that the school districts will need in order to increase enrollment, to increase the facilities. There is a lot of process on this, no? And the 10 constructions that you mentioned at the end, well, it increase also the kind of jobs that will be happening here in Montgomery County. Is that expected? Is that measure? What is the information that help us to think that that is the trend? No. I know that in the demographics in the past, it was mentioned that millennial generation is moving into Montgomery County. And it will be interesting to see what is the trend of the jobs that are happening there in order really to project not only the type of housing, but the type of developments, no? Yeah, there is a lot of information to process, and what I want to do in coming weeks is just to read through, and also to debrief perhaps part of this information in coming days, no?
Definitely, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Jonathan, did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, Dulcie, my question was, does Dan have a sense that the multifamily is more affordable? Is that sort of the trend that's going on here?
I don't think I can speak to the segment of each development, but typically what we see come in are mainly more on the market rate or market rate luxury side. No, I don't, not that I saw in any of the plan sets, did any of these indicate there was an affordable component or a low income component? No.
Yeah, I'll touch on that, Jonathan. They're generally, I wouldn't call them affordable. They are coming in fairly high-end luxury apartments, but compared to single-family detached, you could say that they are. Now, these are mostly rentals, so it's different housing stock, and both regional and nationwide, we are in a housing shortage. So in a way, there's a lot of filtering down, and as you build new units in one sector, it has effects on existing sectors as well. So it's kind of a pull, but from our standpoint, affordability is a major issue, and these units aren't a direct impact on it. But in the long run, new housing opportunity is good overall for the county.
We have Charlie available.
Yes, Charlie, would you like to ask a question, Charlie?
He muted himself.
Well, Zoom communications continues to be a challenge for all of us. I will be so happy when we can once again be back together. Charlie, if you want to add a comment later in the meeting, we'll be very happy to hear that comment. Are there any concerns or comments from the public? If there are, just please announce yourself, your name, and the municipality in which you reside. Hearing none, we'll move on to farmland preservation with Steve. Thank you very much, Dan.
No problem. Thank you.
In person. In person. In person. Very good. Thank you.
I'll give you this in a second.
If you were here, you could see Steve all dressed up. Usually he's coming in from the fields, so it's a nice thing to see.
This again is an interesting presentation, and I hope at the end we have a little moment for Steve to give us a preview of the coming attraction with farmland preservation in the coming year, because there's some interesting information in that vein also.
Yep, no problem. Okay, so like Dan, I am utilizing the story map application for the annual summary of the Montgomery County Farmland Preservation Program. And for anyone on this call who may not know what this program is, it's committed to preserving a permanent agricultural land base and maintaining an environment that supports a viable farm economy. Farmland is preserved through the voluntary sale of properties, development rights, and perpetuity. So the county does purchase the conservation easement of the property. However, the landowner still owns the land and continues to pay the taxes. This program was established in Montgomery County in 1990, and to date has preserved 10,226 acres on 178 farms. This acreage pretty much represents about a third of the county's total farmland. And we did go to settlement on one farm in 2021. However, we did settle on 2 additional farms last month in January, and we are scheduled to settle on an additional 2 farms in the coming months. These are the 5 farms that accepted our offers in 2020. And it takes about 1.5 years to 2 years from application to settlement to complete the full cycle of the program. And what this map represents here is the green polygons are all of our permanently preserved farms. The red polygons are all the farms enrolled in their local ASA. And the single little blue polygon right here is the one farm that we preserved in 2021, which totaled 33 acres. So here is a close-up of the one farm we preserved last year in Upper Frederick Township. Again, it was 33 acres. And this farm is pretty unique because they do grow over 20,000 different pepper plants. And they're looking to even expand that operation. Right now, most of the peppers are grown right here on this front field, and they are potentially looking at expanding sometime in the near future to include this back portion field as well. And they do make their own hot sauces, which you can see right here. It's called Fractured. And they do pride themselves in going from seed to sauce. So they plant seeds early on in the spring, which then get transplanted into the ground. And they harvest all those plants and do whatever process it takes to create their own hot sauces.
Did they process on site?
Yes, in their basement.
That's fabulous.
Yes, the whole operation is done in their greenhouses or in their house. And I've been in the house several times actually, and the basement just has like buckets and these weird contraptions coming all over, and it's pretty neat actually. So we did only go to preservation on one farm in 2021, which is significantly lower than any recent years. However, there is no reason to panic about that. Because like I mentioned, it does take anywhere from 1.5 years to 2 years to potentially preserve a farm. So depending on where some of these farms fall in the cycle of preservation, some get pushed into the next year, which is what happened this year. We have 4 farms that are going to preservation in 2022 that were 2020 applicants. So in 2021, our program did receive 7 applications. 5 of those applications were new, and we had 2 reapplications from prior years. And we did make offers to 6 of those farms, with 5 of those 6 farms accepting the offers. These farms were the Barn, the Kent, the Moser, the Myers, and the new Goshenhoppen Church properties. And these farms are expected to be preserved sometime, hopefully this year or early next year, with a total of 106 acres. And again, this map here represents the orange polygons are the 5 farms that accepted our offers in 2021. The pink polygons are the 18 applicant farms that submitted applications to us for this year. And the green polygons are the preserved farms. And like I just mentioned, there is no reason to panic that we only preserved 1 farm this past year. And why I say that is because this round in 2022, we did receive 18 applicants in 9 different townships, totaling a potential 553 acres. This is the largest amount we've seen probably in about 10 years in terms of applicants. And within those 18 applicants, we have 1 100-acre farm, 1 50+ acre farm, and 3 farms that are 40+ acres. So I do think we received a pretty large pool when it comes to the larger farms in our county, which quite honestly, there really aren't many left because they've either already been preserved or they're starting to get subdivided. And then the remaining ones, just haven't shown interest in our program for several reasons. Here are some resale values in Monco, and I did present on this last year actually, but I kind of wanted to touch on it again. So here we have values for non-preserved farms and preserved farms. You can see that obviously the values of the non-preserved farms are higher than the average of the preserved farms. However, the one thing to note on this slide is the value of the preserved farms did significantly increase compared to last year. So I do think that's indicative of a stronger market, in terms of the housing market. So it is good to see that our preserved farms are selling at a higher value per acre in comparison to recent years. So we have events and outreach in 2021. Ann and myself did a lot of work last year to do a lot of promotional outreach to the public. And here's a list of just a couple of things that we've done. We attended the 4-H fair in August. That was a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And we were there. We had a table set up for the public to come visit us. And we were just handing out educational materials, pamphlets, booklets, and just there to promote the program and talk to anybody that stopped by at the tables. In addition to that, I made presentations to the Springfield Rotary Club and Dockwood's retirement community in Lansdale. And I also, during the inspections in 2021, I handed out postcards that we had made up, which again, just basically promoted our program and said that we were looking for more applicants this year. And we have even more planned for 2022 in terms of outreach. I am currently scheduled to speak at the Schwenkfelder Library in Pennsburg in April, and also a couple additional things later on in the year. And in early 2021, in the first week of January, actually, I think it was, I was a guest on this podcast here at Pennsylvania Environmental Council. And just some topics that were discussed were environmental concerns, economic impact, sprawl, types of farming in the county, and the benefits and goals of the preservation program, and food insecurity. If you're interested in listening to this podcast, it's about 20 minutes long, and you could just come up right here and click this link and it will take you right to the podcast. And each year we produce 2 different newsletters usually, which cover a wide variety of topics. The next letter will be produced in spring of 2022, so keep an eye out for that. And our 6th Keep Farming Conference has been postponed again to a later date. We made this decision to postpone it again. It was scheduled to take place this month, actually. But until everyone feels comfortable with having an indoor large event gathering, we decided just to postpone it for now. However, we did make some progress with this conference because we did officially rename it to the Agriculture Summit, Networking and Advancement for Farmers, Growers, and Horse Owners. And the reason we did that is we felt it just connected a little bit better towards the larger range of farmers. And it kind of speaks more towards the educational aspect of what we can offer to these farmers. And we are currently gathering some ideas to host an outside event sometime this summer or fall for the farmers. So if anyone has any great, bright ideas, please send them my way. I'm more than happy to field some inquiries. And like Montgomery County did in 2020, Pennsylvania did it in 2022 or 2021. They reached a milestone of 600,000 preserved acres. And they're currently sitting at 606,000 plus acres by the end of 2021. They spent a total of $1.6 trillion on easements, and they are nearing pretty close to 6,000 farms. And in Montgomery County, again, we preserved 178 farms on 10,226 acres. And in total, we have been granted $116+ million between the state and county since 1989. And that is all. So I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
Thank you, Steve. We'll go through the board first. Obed?
You are unmuted.
Obed, would you like to comment?
Hi. I was trying to find my mute.
That's the difference than trying to find your voice, right?
Yes, exactly. No. I was checking the size, of course, of the county and the number of the acres that are preserved, the locations of each of those, and the initial map that you show is something that I would like to see again, because it will help us to see the distribution of the land preservation in the, yeah, that one. The green polygons, okay, are the permanent, and
Yes.
the red polygons, okay, because that was one of the things that I wanted just to. And you say that we receive 10 applications every year, more or less?
In the past couple of years, we've averaged about 7 or 8 applications. But this year was a pretty significant uptick and we received 18. And I will add that we actually even had a couple applicants withdraw their application just to hold it until next year because they just weren't ready to move forward with preservation. So technically we received even more than 18. You know, and it's a really good sign, considering the lower applicant pool the past couple of years.
Okay, and it will be interesting to overimpose this map with the map of the presentation before, where we have the multifamiliar development and the and the industrial parks, etc., just to see what is the correlation of all this preservation in conjunction with the other one. That will be an interesting map to see, perhaps in another time of presentation. Thank you, Dulce. I don't have any more questions or commentaries.
Thank you, Obed. Charlie? Charlie, would you like to comment?
Yes, I'm impressed with the valuations of the farms that are remaining high. I think that's important when we approach the farmers to show them that they are not losing anything if they're preserving the ground and for future use for farming. But it's a good report. Thank you. 10,000 acres is a great thing.
Thanks, Charlie. Nicole?
No additional questions. The questions that came to my mind, I think, were answered through the presentation. So thank you, Steve. It's very encouraging to hear the number of applicants that have already come forward this year to continue this great program.
Thank you, Nicole. Jill? Jill, would you like
Good
to
morning. Great to see all these applications coming in for the farmland preservation. Great presentation. No further comments.
Thanks, Jill. Bob, would you like to add a comment?
Yes, I would. Great presentation. I'm a little, for lack of a better description, a little dismayed and kind of shocked that we're restricting the sale and development of these farms and properties, yet they still have to, pay the taxes on the property. Is there a reduction in the taxes, or is it recast so the taxes are lower for the farmers? How does it work?
Yeah, once they are preserved, they can apply to have their land reassessed,
Right.
which eventually lower their taxes, so they're paying lower because the value of their land has decreased since it's become preserved. So the land gets reassessed. How much it gets reduced, that I'm not sure of. I could potentially reach out to somebody from upstairs potentially to see what the values could be, but they do certainly get reduced.
There's also the Act 319 preferential assessment. And if you're available, you probably have.
She's on.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, that all farms, whether they're preserved or not in the county, can apply to be a part of preferential assessment program, which does reduce the tax burden on these properties.
The only issue I see is that under 319, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not an expert on it by any stretch of the imagination, but under 319, if they go to develop it, they have to pay some back taxes. When they're restricting it, as I understand from the presentation, that's it, no potential development, at all. Is that a fair assessment? So it's not apples to apples from my perspective, but I think it'd be helpful if you're out, trying to get people to sign up or convincing them that this is really a good thing for them. If you could give them just a suggestion, say, hey, we did a farm, 105 acres in downtown Bluebell, and their taxes went from X amount of dollars and was reduced by a certain percentage. We're not guaranteeing you that, but that's typically what happens.
Thank
You
you.
can, yeah, we can try. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, is that something you think that would assist you in closing the deal for a lot of people, or do the farmers not care? I'm not being smart when I say that. Is they just look at the taxes as being the cost of doing business?
Yeah, I think.
Sorry, go on.
I think primarily, they never even really think about the taxes. A lot of the farmers, they take pride in their land, so they just want to see it preserved. Bringing up the tax reduction, I think, could be maybe a selling point to push some of the farmers over the edge, but in my 3 years now, I think it is with the farmland program, I could maybe count on one hand how many farmers have asked about the tax difference between being unpreserved and preserved. So I don't think it's something that, it really comes up in discussion with them. But you do bring up a great point that, maybe we could mention it to some of these farmers, and maybe that potentially even draws more interest from them, knowing that their taxes could be reduced.
And that if they sell for development, they do have the rollback taxes.
Yes.
Somebody has to pay the rollback tax.
Yeah.
So,
But can they sell the property under our program where they're restricting it? I mean, is there any rollback on that?
The landowners sell the farms. The potential buyers just have to assume the responsibility of a preserved farm. So I actually receive phone calls all the time, to be honest, from realtors asking me questions saying, hey, I have this client, they're looking to sell their farm and we have this list of potential buyers. And they're just wondering what the program is, what they're allowed to do on the land, what they're not allowed to do. So, we see farms being sold all the time, just a couple this year, actually, even. And, we do try to make it clear to the potential buyers what it is they're getting into.
Right.
And I even send out information to the realtors, whether it be our pamphlets that we actually put together for new buyers, just so they know what it is the program is about.
that's great. That's great, Steve, because I was going to ask, and the second and sometimes third generation buyers on preserved farms, it would be great if we had that, pamphlet that told them exactly what the responsibilities and what the obligations of having a preserved farm. Because in the past, some people really didn't understand it.
We do have a pamphlet on that, actually.
Great. That's helpful. Thanks, Bob, for bringing that up.
Thank you.
And Jonathan. Any comments, Jonathan?
Yeah, thanks. Dulcie, are you there?
I am here.
Great. So as people know, I used to be the chairman of the farm board before I got on the planning commission. I just make two notes. One, I would be surprised if farmers who are entering the program didn't consider the tax implications of the program. They're very sophisticated financial folks, especially when it comes to their land and how everything operates. Secondly, I think the problem going forward, and Dulce, you hit on it, is second and third owners of preserved land have to understand that it's not just quote unquote preserved, they have to farm it. They have to keep it in productive agriculture. And so it's not just a open space area that they can let go fallow. The program requires that they in agriculture. And that may be a problem moving forward with third and fourth owners of these preserved farms.
Thank you, Jonathan. That is very
important. Thanks.
It was constantly brought to my attention that the farmland preservation is for active agriculture and not an open space program, and they're very different. Are there any public comments? I like to make one comment. I mean, sometimes we get a little disheartened when we hear that all the big farms are gone, and why should we still be preserving these smaller parcels? I think the example that Steve gave of the farm in, is it Upper Salford that is the pepper farm?
Upper Frederick.
Is really interesting. These smaller niche farms really may be an emerging market for some of these smaller properties that are considering preservation. There's an industry in cut flowers. There's an industry in boutique crops for restaurateurs. Not that these are tremendous money makers, but they are opportunities for 21st century farmers to have a piece of ground that they can grow crops on and sell, even sometimes as a primary income or a secondary income. So I think, like every other one of our programs, we have to constantly re-envision how they will be productive and useful to our communities in the future. So I think it's interesting. I think it's extremely encouraging that we have 18 farms in the pipeline, and that, as Steve shared yesterday at the farm board, that some of the farmers who are involved in this program have sold their development rights are now our advocates in the field for getting new farmers into the program. So thank you, Steve. Okay, Veronica, are you up there hiding someplace in the Zoom room?
I am here.
Well, it'd be nice to see you. There you are.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.
And we're anxious to hear your annual report and see how you're moving on with your dream project.
All right, great.
Baby steps.
All right, how does my screen look?
Great. It's great. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, I will introduce myself. I'm Veronica Harris. I am the recycling manager for Montgomery County, and I work in the environmental planning section under Drew Shaw. And I'm going to do my annual presentation and give an update on what's been going on in recycling in the county. So just to start with, a reminder that the municipalities handle their own trash and recycling systems. So that's not a county function, that's actually a municipal function. So what the county really takes control of are some special materials that the municipalities do not handle. Specifically, household hazardous waste is really prohibitively expensive to be handled on the municipal level. So the county offers the household hazardous waste program to our residents. We also do a little campaign sign collection program that I'll talk about, and electronic waste is a continuing issue in the state, and we do have a program in the county that collects electronic waste and textiles. So that's specifically what I'll get into, and then I will do a summary of what's going on with trash and recycling in the county, although again it's not under our direct control. I do handle reporting for that. So we'll start with household hazardous waste, and just a definition. This is the toxic or flammable materials that have an environmental health and safety risk if they're not disposed of properly. So, you know, think of putting gasoline in a trash compactor, or some kind of an aerosol that's still full, or a gas tank that could explode when compacted. So that's what we're talking about with household hazardous waste: gasoline, oil, and antifreeze. The oil-based paint, which is a flammable liquid. Pool chemicals can be very dangerous. We do have reports periodically of people throwing pool chemicals out in the trash, and then that can go airborne and send the trash workers to the hospital if they get covered with that, or if they breathe those fumes in. Mercury, flares, fire extinguishers, herbicides, and pesticides are poisons that we need to keep under special disposal. Lead acid batteries are something that we collect, as well as fluorescent tube lights. Those contain mercury. And the mini propane canisters, which people use for camping. We also collect a lot of those every year. So this is a little snapshot of what we have collected over the past few years. And just to point out, in 2020, with the pandemic, we did have to go down to 6 events. Norristown Area High School was handling a number of pandemic related issues and didn't want to have us in their parking lot. Specifically, they were doing a lot of food distribution, and so we had to drop an event for 2020. But 2021, we were back up to 7 events, although again, Norristown High School we weren't able to get back in for 2021. We were able to get into the community college. So we still were able to do a collection in that greater Norristown area. And then for 2022, we are back up to 7 collections, including Norristown Area High School. So in 2021, we did collect 570,000 pounds of material. The cost of that collection that is paid to our vendor is $510,000 for the year. There is an annual grant from DEP that reimburses the county up to $100,000. So we do max out that grant every year, as you can see, which leaves the cost directly to the county of $411,000. So at those 7 events, we had almost 7,000 participants. And I do want to point out, looking between 2021 and 2019, it looks like the number may have gone down. That's actually a change in how we counted. So starting with the pandemic, we were no longer able to talk to each car driver that came in. We used to talk to each car as they entered, each driver, and ask them if they were bringing material just for their household or if they were also bringing for other family members or other neighbors. And with the pandemic, we had to stop having those conversations up close with people. So what we have now is specifically a car count versus the number of households that used to participate. So that number continues to be pretty steady or increased. It's not a decreasing participation rate. As far as the average pounds per participant, again, that kind of stays pretty steady in 70s to 80 pounds per car. I think we had a little uptick in 2020 because so many people stayed home and did a thorough cleaning of their garage and shed that we had. We had some pretty heavy cars coming in 2020, but I think we're past that clean out now. The cost per participant varies year to year, and that is based on the type of material that they bring in as well as the amount of material that they bring in. So there's some material that's much more expensive for us to process. For example, mercury is a very expensive material to have handled versus old gasoline and old oil is relatively inexpensive for us to process. So that's why that cost per participant varies. And again, the cost per pound is based on the material that's coming in. So just a little snapshot of what's happening in those household hazardous waste events. We do still participate with the Southeastern Pennsylvania Consortium, which is the 5 counties, Philly and the 4 collar counties. And all of our residents may attend any of the events in the 5 counties. So there's just less than 30 events that residents can attend. And those events do run from April through November. So, about half of the year, there are places for people to take their material, even if they're not specifically Montgomery County events. Couple of comments about the household hazardous waste program. That $100,000 that is reimbursed by DEP, it's supposed to represent 50% of our costs. That's the way that the bill was written back in 1996. The bill has not been updated since 1996. The dollar amount has not changed. And obviously for Montgomery County, as well as a number of other counties, $100,000 is significantly lower than 50% of what we're spending. So I have been working with legislators for the past few years to try to get a bill passed that would increase that reimbursement, that would increase the total past 100,000. We have a bill right now that's on the books asking for 200,000, which still wouldn't be 50% for Montgomery County, but would certainly be an improvement. That legislation is not moving. It passed out of committee last session, but this session it hasn't even passed out of committee. So I don't have high hopes for that passing in this session of the legislature. I also will note that municipalities and residents are not charged for this service. The municipalities would have a very hard time running this program based on the cost. It's also rather technical to apply for the program as the county. So in other words, I have to fill out a permit that has many different steps to get this approved through DEP every year. And that's a difficult process for a township or a borough to have to go through. So it's not uncommon for counties to run these throughout the state rather than municipalities. I will also note that only about half the counties in the state offer a household hazardous waste collection program. So in about half of the counties, there is no safe way to dispose of household hazardous waste. People have to either just store it indefinitely or put it into the trash and just hope that nobody gets hurt or it doesn't end up causing an environmental incident. The Monco program is the second largest program in the state, and we are only behind the county that has a permanent household hazardous waste drop-off collection. So other than the permanent site, we are collecting the most waste in the state. So that brings me to my wish, my my dream project, which is that we hopefully will have a recycling center for Montgomery County that will be a permanent drop-off, that residents can bring their material not just to these events that are held only about half the year, but that people are able to have a year-round drop-off site, which would obviously be much more convenient if someone is moving in the winter months and needs to get rid of their material. There is literally nowhere that they can take it. They just have to leave it in the house for the next owner, or they have to give it to a friend or a neighbor to hold until a household hazardous waste event is happening. So it would be much more convenient to have a drop-off site. And the idea is that we would take household hazardous waste, but we would also be a drop-off for electronic waste like televisions and computers, and we could take miscellaneous recyclables, the standards like cardboard and cans and bottles, but also some more interesting, hard to dispose of items like items that contain Freon, tires. We could take, bicycles to refurbish. We could take old eyeglasses. There's really an exciting array of things that we could take in for recycling or reuse if we had a facility. Again, this would be year-round collection rather than one-day events. It would reduce illegal dumping, which is an issue to some degree with a number of these items, but specifically with electronic waste. It's really hard to get rid of televisions in particular. So if we had a place where people could come, I think that would help us with illegal dumping. It's a nice waste minimization to have a place to repurpose a lot of these materials, and obviously would increase our recycling numbers. And just an interesting note, when the pandemic did occur, the recycling community was in contact, not just in Pennsylvania, but throughout the region and the country. And other states do have a much more robust recycling drop-off infrastructure in place. And I certainly noted that when there was emergency and we had to shut everything down, the recycling centers were able to figure out safe ways to reopen a lot more quickly than our events were able to adapt to the new situation. You may recall that during the pandemic, our spring events were all canceled by the state, and we had to reschedule those events really just back to back to back in the fall to try to still offer people disposal for their household hazardous waste. The recycling centers were able to pivot much more quickly and continue taking material. So I'll move on to our campaign yard sign recycling program, which is a little sort of boutique program that we offer that always gets a lot of press. People contact me from around the country every year about this program, asking how we do it. And it's by far the smallest program that we run, but it generates a lot of excitement. So it's just a program that we run after the November election. We don't run it during the primary, but people can certainly hold their signs and bring them into the November collection. It's a 1-week drop-off period, and it's a program that we run in cooperation with the municipalities. So we have 15 municipal drop-offs where the municipalities just offer a little spot somewhere at their township building or their public works yard. And every year we add 1 or 2 more sites. So in 2021, Hatfield Township and Upper Gwinnett Township both wanted to join, and the previous year we added Lower Providence and Horsham. So it does continue to grow bit by bit. The program collects signs and stands that are recyclable but are not recyclable if you just put them out with your curbside recycling. So these are kind of specialty items that if they get to the right place, we can recycle. There's not a cost to the county as far as a bill to run this program. The county correctional facility is a great partner with me with this program. They have their they call it their community service program. It's inmates that are working in the community that provide different services that will go out with a couple of guards, and they collect the signs, they bring them back to the facility, they sort them, and the metal stands and the cardboard are recycled through the prison recycling system, and then the plastic signs I take to Kugel's Recycling to have recycled. And the Kugels will take the plastic signs without a charge. The prison makes a little bit of money on the metal stands, and the cardboard just gets taken with their regular recycling. So these are some pictures of what it looks like when we go to collect the signs. There's usually some sort of pile, and you can see the dumpster of metal, and the metal is of value and is collected and actually piles up pretty quickly. So we do get a nice bit of metal from this collection, which again, the only metal that we're collecting in our curbside recycling is cans. So these are pointy and would not make it through the normal recycling system that's designed for our household products like our cans. So that's why they have to be collected separately. It would actually be quite dangerous if these ended up in the recycling center. So we have a new partner this past year, which was really, I have to say, a pleasure working with this group. They're a group in West Philadelphia. It's a nonprofit called Tiny Works Progress Administration, Tiny WPA. And Donna Karamenico, which is the other half of the recycling department with me. The two of us collected the corrugated plastic signs from a number of the municipalities, and we put them in the SUV pictured above in the top corner. This picture was taken after we had already taken out a lot of signs. So we fill the SUV really to the top, and then we bring the signs to this nonprofit in the city. And what the nonprofit does is they teach local youth how to construct things. And most of what they do is construction out of wood, but they took an interest in trying to figure out what they could make with the corrugated plastic. And just a couple of examples that they came up with was they made these great things happen in Philadelphia. They use a laser cut machine that they have. And these were to hang up, I think, for Christmas trees. They make all kinds of Christmas tree decorations out of the corrugated plastic. They also made the 2022 New Year's glasses. They used the corrugated plastic to make roofs for their tiny libraries. You may see the wooden tiny libraries around the city, and they made little shingles out of the corrugated. So, you know, it was nice to be able to work with them and see the material, not just recycled, but actually upcycled and put into creative reuse. So Donna and I actually took 2 full carloads down to the city for them to use, and they're still going through that material and making things with the kids. They're not kids; they're young adults. They're teenagers for the most part. So another special material that the county has found itself needing to get involved in is electronic waste or e-waste. And I do talk every year about the Pennsylvania Covered Device Recycling Act. It was implemented in 2013 and has never worked properly, but has also never been amended. We try every year to make this bill, to improve this bill for the state, but there's some different stakeholders that make it difficult to make any changes to it. So basically, the bill makes it illegal to dispose of televisions and computers in the landfill or in a waste to energy facility. And that's a statewide ban, but there's only disposal available in parts of the state. So even though it's illegal to get rid of the material in the full state, there's only, I should add, free disposal for electronic waste in parts of the state. Although the bill had the intent of covering the whole state, it has not worked out that way. So what Montgomery County did, since we do not have any free disposal options in the county, is we contracted with a company called Retriever. And Retriever will go to the homes of Montgomery County residents and will pick up electronic waste such as TVs and computers. They also will pick up textiles, so apparel, sheets, shoes, you know, that the kind of thing you would maybe put in a Goodwill drop box, you can also have picked up by Retriever. And Retriever does charge a fee for their pickup service. TVs cost about $35 to have picked up. And that is about what you would pay, if not more, if you were able to find an outlet and drive it there for recycling. So it's a very competitively priced service, and they will come directly to the resident's home. Generally, the resident will leave the material right outside their front door or their back door, or wherever they tell Retriever they want it to be picked up. So it can be a contact-free exchange. If the resident wants to keep material in the house, such as a computer that they might not want to put outside until the company comes, then they can say, you know, please knock on the door, and Retriever will take the computer directly from the resident so that the data is kept safe. And this runs through a text system, an app on your phone, basically, where you text the address, you text what you want them to have pick up, and then they schedule a date with you. And it's a very nice, technologically advanced, easy way to have your material collected. They will also do this over the phone. So if a resident is a little bit less comfortable with the tech, they can just talk to someone and schedule the appointment that way. So a little bit of.
Are we almost wound up here?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So a little bit of the data about the retriever program. You can see in 2020, that was the first year we served over 3,000 homes, 2021, over 4,000 homes, close to 5,000, and that is no cost to the county. And you can see hundreds of thousands of pounds of electronics in particular have been picked up. Just a snapshot of what's going on countywide. You can see the green line on the top is the population of Montgomery County. Since 2013, we have a steady increase. The next line is our trash data, and the trend line shows that we're on a slight increase in trash, which we don't necessarily like to see, although more trash tends to correlate with more economic activity. So in a sense, it is showing us a strong economy. Our recycling line is still trending slightly upwards, but this in 2020 we did have a drop, which tends to be related to the pandemic. I'm collecting 2021 data now, so that's not available. The recycling rate, we stay in the mid 30s. Again, we have been seeing a slight decrease with the trash going up, but you know, it's basically a pretty steady line there. Our trash continues to mostly go to the Covanta waste to energy facility. About 44% goes there. The rest goes to landfills in neighboring counties. And the last slide, I just wanted to point out that after China closed the borders to American recycling, we have been able to get more recycling infrastructure in place domestically. And we have seen, because of that additional infrastructure and some additional demand, that the commodity values of recycling in the Northeast specifically has gone up dramatically, and there's a lot more economic benefit in recycling right now, and our recycling companies have certainly seen a benefit from prices going up of the recycling that they collect and are able to sell onto the market. So that is my last slide, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Veronica. You are a long-term warrior for this. For one person or two people in your department to handle over 800,000 in population household. I don't know, what is our household number in Montgomery County? Do you know that?
Yeah, so well, I don't know the households. I'm sorry. The population was 838,000 for 2021. That was our last population number.
But you know, this is something that's been on a radar for 75 years. And it's really, for a sustainable future, we need to be better at both recycling and thoughtfulness in the use of all the things that we have in our lives. So thank you for taking care of Montgomery County. And I certainly hope that you get your dream project and we can visit you. And so I'm going to ask for comments from our board. Nicole, do you have a comment?
Thanks for the presentation. I was curious and happy to see at the end there the information on the commodity valuation. You know, I think, you know, over the years, you know, I've certainly heard you know, the concerns about the cost of recycling and not as much return on investment. Glad to see that that is at least, you know, on an upward trend, that there's value. I think that is, you know, a good driver for, you know, recycling opportunities and, you know, future growth. So I'm glad to see those numbers rising so that there's more value in recycling to help support it. So thanks for the presentation.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Nicole. Jill?
Hi there. I do have a question. First of all, I love this program. It's one of my favorite county programs. But for instance, I know in my township, we do a trash fee, and it actually costs us more to recycle than to have trash removed. And I was just wondering if you think maybe that's why the recycling numbers have gone down, because perhaps recycling is not economical as it used to be.
Yeah, I think that most people don't know that especially during the transition away from sending recycling to China, that the prices for recycling went above what prices for trash disposal are. So that's kind of, those of us that are watching it were aware of that. But the general public, I think, is sort of stops paying attention at the one trash can is for trash and the other trash can is for recycling. And I'm trying to still figure out which goes in which. And, the fact of the pricing, I don't think goes to most people's thinking. The good news is that, again, looking at the chart on the screen, the value of the recycling had been so low since the 2018 shutdown in China, that it to get rid of a ton of trash costs $65 a ton if you're going to take it to the landfill or take it to the waste to energy plant. And to process a ton of recycling costs $85. That's how much you have to pay your people and your facility to sort through the trash and process the trash. So if the value that you're getting when you sell the recycling isn't enough to offset that $85, your recycling is a significant expense. So now that we're up to, seeing $145 a ton as the value, the average value for a ton of recycled material, we will start to see that it's cost effective to recycle, and the townships and boroughs will end up having a lower cost to recycle material than to dispose of it. So it's certainly something that the people paying the trash bill for the municipalities or individuals paying the trash bill were aware of, but largely, especially in Montgomery County, trash and recycling are coming as one bill. Most people don't pay for them separately. So again, I think that recognition may not have been widespread. I will just quickly add that 2020, because there was a lot less recycling coming out of the businesses, businesses tend to be better at recycling and recycle a lot of material, especially cardboard. So when the businesses shut down for a period in 2020, that is what's mostly credited with the slowdown of recycling in 2020.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bob,
thanks.
Bob, do you have a comment?
Is there, well, first of all, where do you think that the 20 or the open 7 days a week or whatever it is, the recycle center will be, its location, just one location or multiple locations?
Yeah, ideally, I would like multiple locations, maybe 3 around the county, so people don't have to travel too far from their homes to access them. But the first facility that we're looking at would go on a parcel of land near the waste to energy facility in Plymouth Township. So there's the quarry that the county owns that has now been filled. And the hope is that we can get a few acres of that parcel to put our collection center. So the first facility probably will go into Plymouth Conshohocken area.
Okay, and if you got to go ahead today, when would it be operational?
I think it might be a bit over a year. We have a specialist who has built household hazardous waste drop-offs around the country, and I've been in contact with him about advising on building this facility for us. So it's, we're not reinventing the wheel here. We have a blueprint basically of how we can build this. There are a few special systems that have to be in place because we are handling toxic and flammable materials. So, there's a few extra safety features that are built into a household hazardous waste facility, but it's basically just an industrial building where you drive through and drop off, and then we process and ship things out on tractor trailers. And, it's a pretty basic piece of construction.
Okay, just a FYI, when I represented the county, we did some survey work over in that area, so I'm going to try and dig that up. And if I can find it, I'll send it to you.
Great, thank you.
Will there be a charge for people bringing in the recycling materials?
The idea is that we would still not charge for household hazardous waste. We certainly don't want to discourage people bringing that to us and risk having it being disposed of improperly and hurting someone. But things like televisions, we may have to have some kind of a fee just to offset our costs in having it recycled. Things like tires, if we were going to take them, we would probably charge a minimal fee because we don't want people hoarding them and bringing them to us instead of just bringing them to their local tire recyclers. So, there's a few things. We're not trying to disrupt systems that are already in place, but we want to have a convenient way for people to get rid of things. If we were doing bike repair and reuse, I certainly wouldn't be charging people to drop off their old bikes or their old glasses or, old clothing, anything that we can get rid of at a reasonable cost or even make a little money on, we certainly wouldn't be charging people. But the idea that we could be doing this year round instead of piecemeal, I think would be really exciting.
Okay. I want to move through and let everyone have a comment, but I want to keep on schedule. Stephen is going to ask me how close to his schedule I kept this. Okay.
I was hoping
So,
you'd beat him and we could rub it in.
no, I did last time, but everyone seems very interested in this topic, Veronica. So let's let people talk. So Jonathan, do you have a comment?
Really interesting presentation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Jonathan, for your brevity. Obed?
Thanks, Veronica. Yes, I have a commentary. In Secate, in the community center that I direct, we made an experiment for many weeks about separating the trash, trying to see how much trash was recycling and how much trash was disposal. We did this in partnership with Villanova University. The students, the kids, the families, we were able to see what is the kind of trash that we are producing. No? It came up that 75% of the trash that we produce, it was recycling, and 25% is disposal. That makes us to reflect as a Latinx community, as a Latino community, to think how we can incorporate more recycling in our daily life and practices of that, no, in order to take care better of the town, to take care better of the environment. We had the program of environmental justice at Secate. It's a program that has been running now for 2 years. And it came to my mind how nonprofits like Secate, for example, could be more aware of these events, could partnership with the county, perhaps to have sessions or grants or ways to incorporate that base of the community, no, nonprofits and families, no. It was very interesting for us to see that 75%, and that every week we separated, and that pushed us as a center actually to get a dumpster only for recycling. Even when it was more costly and we spend more money, we say we need to do it. No. Therefore, just I wanted to share with you that data, that practice that we have at Secate, and you are welcome to visit us anytime. Also to share with the families, and thank you, Veronica. Thanks for this, and I hope that really the dream will come true. I think it will be very important to have those centers.
Yeah.
Thank
you so much.
We'll have an away meeting at your recycling center.
Yes, I
Okay.
would love that. If I could just do a quick comment, you can see on the chart I just put up, we're only recycling in the mid 30s, 30% of our waste. And as Obed said, recycling 75% of our waste is really more what we should be doing. It's just so much of it, you know, we're still throwing in the trash, even though it is recyclable. So the idea of a 75% recycling rate is really what I would love to be showing you here on this chart. And the idea sort of nationally is that we should be looking at recycling 90% of our waste. That's a goal to get to, and only have a small, 10% portion that we actually have to landfill or burn. So I'm very excited to hear about your project, and that's great news that you're recycling 75%. Congratulations.
Charlie? Charlie, would you like to comment? Charlie? Okay, we're going to move on. A lot of aspirational desire here, and we look forward to your progress. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Just the last moment. Oh, Charlie, there you are. Charlie, do you want to add something?
Yes, we did not discuss shredding at all. I'm wondering if you want to opine about shredding.
Sure. So paper shredding, document shredding is something that the county tried to get involved with for a few years. And I think we were running maybe four shred events a year. And it got to the point where pretty much every municipality called me and said, Veronica, come over to our township or borough and run a shred event for our people. And I can't run 62 of them. So what we did was we sort of pushed that back to the municipalities and said, this is really a municipal function. If you can offer this for your residents, that would be great. We've had a number of elected representatives that have stepped up to offer shred events for their communities. But the shredding, when that gets put into the curbside recycling, often doesn't make it into the paper bale. It just kind of turns into confetti in the system and ends up as the residue, we call it, which is basically what's the trash that's coming out of the recycling system. So having a separate program for paper shredding is a very wonderful thing. And all of that paper will be recycled. It goes directly from the shred trucks to a paper pulping facility. So all of that paper ends up recycled, whereas if we put it in our curbside, it's not getting recycled unless it's full sheets of paper. So that is the status. The county, for county buildings and county departments, I did implement a program that we have shred containers in all of our county offices, and a shred truck does come every 2 weeks and shred all that material and have it recycled. So that is, the documents are protected and the paper is recycled, but that's specific to county departments. So otherwise it's left to the municipalities. Residents can also go to places like Staples and pay to have their paper shredded, their documents shredded. And it is a sort of minimal fee, but there is a charge if you go to a FedEx store or a Staples, but they will shred and recycle documents in those retail outlets as well.
Okay, thank you everyone for your comments. There's obviously a lot of interest. Are there any public comments? Hearing none, thank you again. We'll look forward to your visit next year, Veronica.
Great, thank you.
Marley and Tim, thank you for being patient. And we love to hear about Pottstown's Metropolitan Regional Planning, our next agenda item.
Great. Good morning, everyone. my slideshow up. All right. Yes, this morning, Tim Konetchy and I will be giving an update on the Pottstown Metropolitan Regional Planning Committee, the planning assistance contract. This contract was actually renewed at the start of 2021. So we're already about a year into the contract, but I feel like this is actually good timing to present to the board because a lot happened in 2021 to update you on, but 2020 was relatively quiet in comparison. So I think it worked out. So here's a map of the region. It's made up of 8 municipalities, 6 in Montgomery County, centered on Pottstown Borough, and then the neighboring West, Upper, and Lower Pottsgrove Townships, Douglas Township, New Hanover Township. And on the Chester County side of the Schuylkill River, we also have North Coventry and East Coventry Townships. As a regional planning committee, they've been active since 2005. That's when their first regional comprehensive plan was adopted. But they actually have a longer history of working together prior to that as a council of governments. In 2020, the total population of the region was just under 83,000 people. And that's an increase of approximately 20% in the overall population since 2000. So a lot of development and population growth going on in the region. As comparison, over the last 20 years, Montgomery County grew by 14%. And the Pottstown region's population growth isn't forecasted to slow down much. DVRPC's population forecasts for the region suggest another increase of 18% population through 2050. Montgomery County is, as a whole, is only forecasted to grow 10% during that time period. But when you look at the individual municipalities, this growth isn't spread out evenly. The Pottstown Borough and neighboring West Pottsgrove and Lower Pottsgrove are only forecasted population growth in the single-digit percentages, whereas New Hanover Township forecasted to grow nearly 40%, as well as the 2 townships in Chester County are forecasted with large population growth. But one benefit of regional planning, I believe, is to be able to look at this population growth and development trends and development pressures at a regional scale, understand how that's being distributed and the larger impacts of that better. This is the region's current future land use map from their 2015 comprehensive plan. You can see they identify Pottstown Borough in orange as their regional core. It's where they encourage the most wide range of uses, the highest density of uses. And then in pink are the primary growth areas that follow some of the major corridors with High Street, Route 100, Swamp Pike. And the secondary growth areas in yellow make up most of the rest of the region that is already developed, but also serve as a kind of transition between the primary growth and conservation areas. You can see a lot of the region, as you get further from the regional core in particular, are designated as conservation areas. And with my 4 years of managing the region, I have not seen any major developments in the conservation area be proposed. So I feel like that's a good sign that the regional plan is working, that they're seeing development where they want it and not in their conservation areas. So some other notes in terms of regional planning and future land use. Their regional comprehensive plan includes suggested land uses for each of these future land use categories, as well as detailed development guidelines for each land use. Their intergovernmental agreement also lays out each municipality's fair share housing commitments and distributes regionally significant land uses, like quarries, landfills, and mobile home parks across the region. Now, I mentioned that 2021 was a busy year for the committee. Here's just a snapshot of some of that activity. They reviewed nearly a dozen each of zoning map and text amendment consistency applications and developments of regional impact. They also processed several grant support letter requests and had several guest presentations on things like the new strategic plan for the Regional Recreation Committee and the Tri-County Passenger Rail Committee, which is exploring the possibility of extending or restoring rail service through Pottstown to Reading, which is of course something they are very interested in. Also a quick update on the Keystone Employment and Economic Plan. This was the first specific plan to be adopted in the state. A specific plan being a tool that's only authorized for municipalities participating in regional planning. The plan was adopted by both Pottstown Borough and West Pottsgrove Township in 2019 and establishes a vision for economic development, revitalization, and infrastructure improvements for the Keystone Boulevard. Pottstown Borough followed that up with adopting a Keep Overlay zoning district in 2020, meant to implement the specific plan. However, currently the only permitted use in the overlay is a cellulose-based solid waste gasification facility. And that became the Pottstown Sustainable Energy Park, that the first land development approved under the Keep Overlay in just last month. This is a really unique use that will use a gasification process to convert cellulose material into renewable diesel, diverting material from the landfill in the process. So kind of tying into what Veronica was just talking about. The company, which would then be headquartered in Pottstown, plans to build several of these plants across the country. This plant in Pottstown is expected to provide about 110 full-time jobs once it is up and running. And this parcel, here's the general site plan, but the development parcel is highlighted in orange on the map on the left. So it's located right at the end of the current Keystone Boulevard in Pottstown Borough. But of course, the Keep plan envisions Keystone Boulevard extending along this red line all the way to Grosstown Road in West Pottsgrove to create a full connection here and get closer to the 422 interchange. And the developer for this project has agreed to pay $625,000 towards the cost of extending Keystone Boulevard in the future. Another unique aspect of regional planning for PMRPC is our partnership with DVRPC, who works on a transportation-related project for the region each year. In 2021, we wrapped up the 2-year High Street Corridor study. High Street is really the main street of the region. So this study looked at the 6.5 miles of High Street through the region, through West Pottsgrove, Pottstown Borough, and Lower Pottsgrove. This is also an important public transit corridor, and many landmarks are located along High Street, including Montgomery County Community College, Pottstown Hospital, the Hill School, Pottstown Borough Hall, and actually Lower Pottsgrove Township has plans to move their municipal building down onto High Street. So the report is organized into 5 sub-corridors to be able to reflect the different land use patterns and needs along the full corridor. In terms of public outreach, I feel like we really, with DVRPC's leadership, really stepped it up for this project. Despite the pandemic, we had a diverse steering committee that met several times. We had an online survey with 105 responses, and we hosted 2 virtual open houses last spring to review the draft recommendations. Also in 2021, we started our next 2-year project with DVRPC, a bus stop enhancement study for PARTS, Pottstown Area Rapid Transit. And this study will build upon PARTS Transit Development Plan, which was completed in 2019 and resulted in immediate changes to the routes extending service to Gilbertsville and Boyertown Shopping Center. A number of stops, especially along High Street and at some of the shopping centers, have shelters currently, but the design of the shelter and whether there are other supportive features such as signage and ADA loading pads is really inconsistent. And we recognize it can be challenging to know how to spend limited funds to implement improvements in such a large system. So this document will outline design best practices. It includes a detailed inventory of existing stop conditions and amenities, and will create a design guide for the system as a whole, as well as identify funding opportunities, with the hope being that unifying the branding and making sure there's consistent information about scheduling and how to get from point A to point B on the system could increase ridership, improve the service for the region. So now I'm going to hand it over to Tim to talk about Park and the Regional Recreation Mini Grant Program.
Thanks, Marley, and good morning, everyone. So in 2021 and now continuing into 2022, we've been working closely with Park, the Pottstown Area Regional Recreation Committee, by attending monthly meetings. For anyone unfamiliar with Park, it's an organization that focuses on maintaining, enhancing, and developing recreational facilities and open space throughout the region. Park is made up of representatives from 7 out of the 8 municipalities that are in the Regional Planning Committee, and they entered into an intergovernmental cooperative implementation agreement in 2020. That's a mouthful. So that includes the townships of Douglas, East Coventry, North Coventry, Lower Pottsgrove, Upper Pottsgrove, and West Pottsgrove, as well as the borough of Pottstown. It also includes representatives from the Pottstown Area Health and Wellness Foundation, the Schuylkill River Greenway National Heritage Area, and the full-time parks planner, Tricia McCloskey, who's actually just onboarded over the summer, shortly after I joined MCPC. Park has been really busy kind of setting the course for their future since that 2020 agreement. So they finished a strategic plan covering years 2021 to 2025, utilizing a $20,000 mini grant, which we'll talk about shortly. So they've been implementing aspects of that, including trying to kick off diversity, equity, inclusion, and kind of weaving that into the work that they do, just as an example. They've also been working on a lot of marketing improvements. So since Tricia, the new planner, came on board, she started a quarterly newsletter and started adding blog posts to the Park's website, which is parcc.net. And they've actually started the process of drafting a marketing plan with the help of a couple interns that they have on staff currently. They also manage trail counters across the region, which is reported monthly. And just kind of a quick figure, in the final quarter of 2021, they counted over 8,000 people utilizing the trails in Pottstown, East Coventry, North Coventry, and West Pottsgrove, and another 6,000 in Upper Pottsgrove alone in the final quarter of 2021. And lastly, the parks planner, she's always seeking and applying for grant opportunities and outside funding, and of course, managing the ongoing grant projects. So for the mini grants, it is now in the 4th round of funding. And through this program, we assist municipalities with undertaking park improvement activities such as adding amenities to existing parks, improving previously acquired open space land and potentially turning those into parks and adding trails, adding green features and landscaping, building accessible pathways in existing parks, potentially adding new signage and other enhancements, like perhaps replacing a defunct playground or an outdated playground. The funding for this program is thanks to DCNR and the Pottstown Area Health and Wellness Foundation. They split the cost 50-50 basically, with the Health and Wellness Foundation matching the DCNR grant for us, and grants of up to $25,000 are awarded to each applicant. Since 2013, we've awarded a total of 37 projects, and that has included $600,000 in funding, and that's leveraged a total of $600,000 in matching, so a total of $1.2 million in project costs across the region, specifically related to recreation and open space projects. The 3rd round was just closed at the end of 2021. That round included $200,000 in funding, again, 50-50 between DCNR and the Health and Wellness Foundation. Through this program, we were able to get about $100,000 more in municipal match, including in-kind labor and cash, and 11 grant projects were successfully completed. For round 4, which we're kind of just in the beginning stages of, we have had 6 applicants, and we have a total of $150,000 in grant funding to award. So a little bit less funding from DCNR. We got 75,000 versus 100,000 in the previous rounds. So the Health and Wellness Foundation just matched once again. And with those 6 applicants, we do just about exhaust the funding that we've received at this time, assuming that all of the projects are funded at their full ask. And we do have an ArcGIS online story map that currently exists that has a roundup of the first 3 rounds of projects and has information and graphics on all of those. However, probably in the coming weeks and months, we're looking at kind of revamping that and adding the 4th round once those are all approved and getting started.
Great. Thanks, Tim. So just looking ahead for a moment, our goals going forward, of course, continued partnership with DVRPC to complete our transportation-related studies, and continuing all of that. Continued partnership with Park to advance regional recreation planning. Continued partnership with the Health and Wellness Foundation to continue the Parks and Recreation Mini Grant Program. In 2021, we've stepped up our coordination with Chester County Planning Commission, as well as the regional school districts. Something I'm constantly doing, and with so many reviews last year, we're always kind of evaluating the process for how we identify and go through zoning consistency and development of regional impact reviews. So always looking for ways to do that, playing with interactive mapping and different ways to track that. In 2022, with new census data coming out and new forecasts from DVRPC, we're going to be completing a demographics analysis update, but also the regional comp plan update is on the horizon. That would be due for an update in 2025. So we might get that kicked off in 2023 under this contract as well. So a quick summary of the contract. Again, it started last year, goes through 2023, 4.5 planner days a month, 11 night meetings a year. Total cost is $126,199.50. Local share is $63,000 and change. This is the largest regional planning assistance contract and the 3rd largest planning assistance contract overall, behind Abington and Lansdale. That is all. We welcome any questions and feedback. Thank you again.
Thank you, Tim and Marley. This is a complex region, and it's so interesting because it crosses the Schuylkill River and it also goes into Chester County, and these folks have stayed together. So it's interesting to see them as they mature and what issues arise and how they deal with it. I'm going to go to the board for any comments. Jonathan? John Rindy, do you have a comment? Okay, we'll move to Bob. Bob, a comment? Obed, do you have to leave? Okay, why don't we'll go right down to Obed.
Yeah, Pottstown has been always a region in which I have seen the diversity growing, the population growing. And all these plans, I just wanted to see how all that diversity will be included, the elements of the housing, in combination with this, to avoid elements of gentrification. And I just want to see, the development of Pottstown. I will try to connect Dulce in my transportation to continue with the meeting. Okay, but thank you so much, Marley, for the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Obed. Be well. We'll see you next month. Jill, would you have a comment?
Thanks, Marley. Great presentation. No comments.
Thanks, Jill. Nicole?
Thank you, Marley and Tim, for the presentation. As a resident of this region, it's great to see a lot of these things happening firsthand. and the continued efforts of the Regional Planning Commission that I have had a great opportunity to work with in the past. There's a lot of exciting things happening, and there's a lot of exciting things to come. I think, Pottstown area, as much of the county, we need to focus on housing and diversity, and some of the items that Obed raised. But I do think there's a lot of exciting things happening. So thank you for the update. Much appreciated.
Okay, thanks, Nicole. Charlie?
Thank you very much for a good report, Marley and Tim.
Okay, very good. Thanks again for connecting us to Pottstown. Okey doke. Any public comments from the field? We'll move on to Upper Dublin, Claire and Pattie.
Hello, we're just gonna continue sitting here at the table, if that's okay?
That's fine.
All right. Well, while Robert's pulling up the presentation, Pattie, Guttenplan and I are gonna be presenting on the community assistance contract renewal for Upper Dublin Township, and also a project update on the Fort Washington landscaping and street sweeping plan. So their contract began in July over the summer, and I'll give a little bit of an update on how their contract has been amended recently because of some staff changes in the township and the increased role that the county will be playing in the coming year. Okay, so Upper Dublin Township is located in the eastern part of the county, and red, surrounded by Horsham to the north, Lower Moreland to the east, White Marsh and Springfield Townships to the south, Lower Gwynedd to the west, and Ambler is also tucked in there in the west. We've had an increased population size in current a little bit past 2020 population of 26,600 approximately, with a median age of 44 years and a relatively high median household income of $128,000 annually. So this is their existing land use plan from their 2020 comprehensive or 2010 comprehensive plan. So it's a little bit out of date, but it gives you a sense of the type of land uses that you see in the township, primarily residential with a lot of open space and recreation, and also a significant amount of institutional uses with a number of schools throughout the township. And in the southern part of the township is in purple, the Fort Washington Office Park, which has had a significant amount of activity in the past year or two, and what we'll be presenting on in more detail later in this presentation with land developments and also the office park plan that Pattie will be presenting on. So during their previous contract period, they've had some significant land developments, specifically residential developments that Dan presented on a little bit earlier today. The J at Dresser, or 1125 Virginia Drive and 1250 Virginia Drive that I'll be speaking on in a couple of slides. We provided flexible assistance with a variety of different projects, including the landscaping plan, analysis of mixed use requirements in the greater Fort Washington zoning district, a review of residential uses in the office park, and a variety of other zoning reviews and assistance, including the riparian corridor ordinance that we're currently reviewing and working with the township to draft now. So for the significant land developments that we've seen in the office park, I highlighted the two areas of the two major developments that have been approved for development in the coming years. So the three parcels in the south are the location of 1125 development called the J at Dresser, which is the former ADP building, and also at Office Center Drive and Virginia Drive. So a significant thing to note about the development in the office park is that they are residential, and this is a big office park that's beginning to see some of the activity that the new zoning district has hoped to encourage with increasing residential and creating more live, work, play environment. They've had a number of other changes in the office park over the years with the new lifetime fitness facility. They have a new public library located in the office park. And with the residential development coming in, they're starting to see some of the activity that they were hoping to see, as well as the cross-county trail that we'll be talking about also. So this is the plan that you saw earlier from Dan's presentation, 310 residential units at 1125 Virginia Drive. Some of the issues that we've reviewed in this plan are related to the relationship between the building, the cross-county trail that goes along Virginia Drive in this section of the office park, and the public space that's being proposed and is highlighted in pink on the plan that you see on the screen. Since the cross-county trail will be going through the office park, that plays a significant role in how this building will fit in with the office park and the other amenities there. Another significant land development is at 1250 Virginia Drive, just across the way. The cross-county trail will be going along the frontage of this property and has similar concerns with the other development. This property will have 171 residential units and will have public space proposed as part of the development because the Greater Fort Washington zoning district does require amount of public space. And so the relationship again between the public space, the trail, and the building are all factors that we're looking at for different projects going forward in the office park. So one of the other projects that we've done for the township is some design work looking at how they can integrate mixed-use buildings into a floodplain. The entire office park nearly is within the floodplain. They have mitigated some of this with flood retarding structures, but still it is a concern, and they have increased design standards that they want to include for any buildings that would go in the office park. So while they do not require mixed use currently for the developments in the office park, we provided some design illustrations and ideas that they could be encouraging for any new buildings that might be going into the office park. This is an example that is they have a vacant lot across from their public library, and we provided illustrations on how they could consider integrating public space and buildings that would integrate the floodplain into the design of the structure. So as stated earlier, we will be continuing work on the streetscaping and landscaping plan and reviewing zoning amendments and providing the flexible assistance that we've been working on during the last contract period. The new thing that is going to occur during this contract period is the attendance of the planning commission meetings. So they have had some staff turnover that I mentioned earlier. Their staff planner has left. And so during this year, at least, the county will be attending the planning commission meetings that we haven't had attended previously. So we'll be increasing the contract for the first year. In terms of the amended contract, so this began in July, but has been amended to account for the increased coverage, 3.5 plenary days a month, 16 night meetings a year for year one. And the contract cost just under $70,000, municipal share $35,000. And years 2 and 3 at this point, we will not be attending planning commission meetings, going back to the way it was previously. So now I will hand this over to Pattie Guttenplan to provide an update on the Fort Washington Office Park streetscaping and landscaping plan.
Thank you, Claire. So you've probably seen this plan before. We've been here before with this. This effectively started about 2 years ago. This is a 2-mile stretch of cross-county trail through the Fort Washington Office Park. And it, of course, it's right parallel to Virginia Drive, Commerce, and
and Commerce Drive as well. And we were tasked to do a conceptual streetscape and landscape plan and eventually a detailed landscape plan. So why are we doing this? Here are some of the past studies that have been done, but I just want to comment on a couple. In 2020, they initiated to rebrand the office park, renaming it the Crossroads at Fort Washington, which you can see in the lower left as part of their branding. At that time, the township also moved to redevelop the site in the middle of the park as a community center and their public library. And since the road diet and cross-country trail is an ongoing project, and wanting to capitalize on that, we were asked to utilize the design standards that were developed and approved in 2019 to create a more cohesive design for the streetscape and the landscape. So I think I've shown this picture many times before, this 8-foot-long plan where we identified the opportunities and constraints. This was a result of a site visit by the team, which besides Claire Warner, Kevin Chavu, and Barry Jeffries, who you see pictured here, included Eric, Gerald, and myself. We toured the park by car and on foot and came back and put all of that information on this plan. This translated into the plan you see at the top, where we combined the existing land uses with our observations and the analysis of the opportunities and constraints here. And we presented this to the township staff in March of 2020. But of course, it is impractical going forward to do everything on a 6-foot-long plan. So as you can see in the lower bottom, we divided the park into 5 zones that roughly coincide with the phases of the construction of the road diet and the cross-county trail. This is the community center zone in the middle of the office park. Again, this is a site analysis plan where we noted the opportunities and constraints, such as needed crosswalks, pedestrian connections, the need for bus shelters, and where there were vacancies and opportunities for redevelopment. We then moved on to the conceptual landscape plans, which started with an analysis of the existing conditions with an eye to what the landscape opportunities are present, and again, how to implement streetscape and landscape standards from their design guide. 4 broad landscape opportunity treatments areas were developed, ideas to address the different landscapes that already existed here. One was bioretention, one was corporate and natural edge vegetation, one was street trees, emphasis on street shade trees, and then the 4th were on gateways, both for the entrances at each end of the park, as well as interior focus areas, such as this community center. We presented our initial work to the Upper Dublin Authority back in June of 2020, and then to this board in October of that year. Because of the pandemic and our Restart Monco initiative, work on this was postponed until January of 2021. When we decided to start, which is when we decided to start the detailed landscape plans, and we decided to start in the middle zone, the community center zone, for a variety of reasons, including that this area reflected each of the landscape opportunity treatment areas. The township, as I mentioned, was going through the process of redeveloping this site for the community center and the public library. And this was the phase that Bull Smythe, the engineering firm working on the cross-county trail, was working on for the next phase of construction, and which this proved to be fortuitous. We received CAD-based information on the road diet and on the cross-county trail design layers from Bull Smythe and started our work. We were then asked to give an interim update to the Upper Dublin Planning Commission, April of 2021. And Jack Smythe and CJ Zebley from Bull Smythe saw that presentation and reached out to us to see if we could coordinate efforts. So, you know, at MCPC, we're a public agency. We don't often get the chance to contribute design so directly to a project going to construction. Although I had certainly had experience with that from my years in the private sector. So we met with them. We decided to give it a try. And we were to give them the CAD layers for their drawings. And they also asked us to look at some additional focus areas. We met in June and they wanted our design by August of 2021, which we delivered to them then. So this is not one of their drawings from the construction set, but is a design for the area around the community center. We provided Bull Smythe with CAD layers, which they put into their drawing set, but we also created a landscape plan set for the township to serve as control and as an illustrative set for their use. The community center zone was subdivided into 4 segments at 30 scale. This is one of those 4. And I want to point out the 3 distinct design efforts here. One, as you can see, we're trying to reestablish that tree-lined corridor through the park, as is evidenced by the street trees, shade trees on either side. And even though this is a big project, the species selection is not haphazard. The plow was carefully created, as you can see, some cases over here I have a pointer. Do I have a pointer? Is this red one the pointer? Turn it off. Anyway, as you can see to the left, there are some ones in pink. And so sometimes instead of a larger canopy tree, we'd be picking an understory tree, perhaps if there were overhead wires or a limited area of the verge. Then I want to point out 2 additional areas we were asked to address. As part of the road diet design, Bull Smythe had proposed medians, which has become a best practice for traffic calming. And we were asked to provide planting schedule for them as well. And then we were asked to design a rain garden in the front yard of the community center. This is that same area reflected in the construction documents from Bull Smythe. You may notice that the trees on the other side of the street are not shown since they really aren't part of the cross-county trail construction, although having that design in place for future development, that then a developer would know what it is we intend to have happen on that side of the street. But our design and plant selection is reflected on what is shown on the side with the cross-county trail. So what's next? We just completed the middle section, which you see in blue. The red section is already completed. The purple line is the zip ramp and will be advertised for construction soon, but we really need to have a part in that. So our next section to work on is the green section, which is from Pennsylvania Avenue to where the Route 309 overpass goes over the trail, goes over the park. This section has its own challenges and opportunities. We are right now calling it the Pennsylvania Avenue Gateway 10-minute zone. Not sure that's the best title. We may be adjusting that, but anyway, that's what we call it right now. And one of those reasons for calling it that was it is a 10-minute walk from the Fort Washington Regional Rail Station just across Pennsylvania Avenue in White Marsh Township. So what are the challenges and opportunities here? This is a view from Pennsylvania Avenue. The right side has an existing sidewalk, but that is not the side of the trail, and the sidewalk could be wider, but widening it would affect that tree line. So there are some conversations to be had there. The left side is where the road diet will be implemented to create room for the trail. So that's where the curb line will come in closer to the center line and a trail will be put in. And about 10 feet from where the current curb is and where the trail would lie is a deep swale, which is called the Bodenstein Channel. So the challenges will be creating the scheme for those steep slopes, that limited area, and making it all work. It has to include a fence for safety, and it abuts a residential area, so some buffers may be needed along there. So one of the more exciting things for us as well is the opportunity to create more of a gateway vision here. The island that you see will be removed. It has to be removed for construction and then rebuilt. Don't worry, they're gonna put the clock in storage until it comes back. But this gives us an opportunity to create perhaps a different vision here. So this could be really exciting work for us. So as we go forward, I want to make sure that this is truly a team effort. Claire, with Eric's guidance, is our contact and the connection with the township and keeps us informed of everything that's happening there, helps us keep on a regular meeting schedule with them. And as for the landscape plans, I am the project manager and the registered landscape architect, but Barry Jeffries has an expertise in plant material and site selection for plants and is key to the project. As is Kevin Chavu, who's responsible for the production of those CAD drawings and making sure they're accurate and usable for our partner. So we're excited about this continuation of this relationship with Bull Smythe in the development of these plans. As a matter of fact, we met with them last week, talked about the next phase and talked about how this project had been a good experience for both parties. And in a recent email, they said, overall, this partnership has been critical to this project and we are excited it is moving forward. So I think we did that in record time. I want you to report to Steve that we did it in less than about 20 minutes.
Terrific.
And we then there's the next slide for any questions. So
terrific. Okay, we'll begin with Jonathan. Okay. Bob, do you have any questions?
No questions, Dulcie. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Jill, would you have any questions for Pattie or Claire?
No questions, just a comment. Great work. It looks amazing. Thank you.
This is really is, you know, it is a transformation. I mean, this over the years to come, the next 20, this is going to be one of those ones where we do the aerials and what has happened and all the groundwork that had been done both by the region and Upper Dublin Township and the legislative delegation who got the funding, you know, so it's a complicated project, long-term. Nicole?
No questions, just a quick comment as well. Thanks, Pattie and Claire. And I think this is an exciting transformation, as was mentioned, and hopefully spurs some ideas and thoughts in other municipalities. So thank you.
Charlie?
No question, thank you. It's a very attractive corner that you have proposed.
Thanks, Charlie. Okey doke. Any public comments? Any comments from the staff in general who have been involved so often with Upper Dublin over the years? And I think with Paul retiring and their planner,
Jim
Ennis retiring, it is a time that people are being reevaluating. And there's a lot of activity that we've been involved with, and going forward, it's great to have a hand in shaping Upper Dublin, one of our premier communities. So thank you. I think that about does it for our agenda, except for
the director's report.
The director's report.
All right. Let me start with staff news. I want to welcome our newest planner, a community planner, Naomi Krim. And if Naomi is with us, I'll have her say hello in just a minute. She is a master's graduate of Cornell University, where she got her planning degree. And we haven't had a Cornell person in a while.
Yay, Cornell.
Had them before, it's great. I also find it fascinating, Cornell tends to run in league with the Peace Corps. Naomi did serve 2 years with the Peace Corps after graduation, so.
So was Elizabeth.
That's right, that's right.
Elizabeth was Peace Corps.
There must be something going on, that's a great thing, so there must be something going right there. And she most recently was with the city of Reading as a planner. And we'll be working, as I understand right now, she's looking towards West Norriton, Douglas, and Collegeville as her starting communities. Naomi, if you're here, you want to say hello? And
yeah, hi everyone. Nice to meet you all virtually.
Hi, Naomi. Welcome aboard. That's an interesting group of communities you'll get to know. Where are you from, Naomi?
I actually grew up in Montgomery County, in Lower Merion Township.
Okay, terrific. So welcome home for your work then. Thanks so much.
Great, and we'll have another new community planner starting next week. So she's not here yet, Ann Nygaard. You'll meet her next month. So we're filling our slots. We still have 3 openings, design assistant, section manager, transportation planner, and community planner. Positions are posted. We do also have 2 new interns that have recently started. I think I mentioned last month, Samantha Zrillo was just starting then from Temple University. And Olivia Pierce, who just started this week. And I don't know, I haven't checked if Samantha and Olivia are with us. Please say hi, or are they there?
Yeah, hi, I'm here. Hi, I'm Olivia. It's nice to meet everyone.
Hi there, Olivia. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Both come from Temple University. And I know, Olivia, you'll be working with the environmental section on the hazard mitigation plan, and probably some other projects that you either know about or will be finding out about. But we're grateful to have you.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Perfect. And Samantha, is Samantha here? Yeah, I think she might have been there last time, but again, she's also from Temple and will be working primarily with open space and trails section on some projects. Thank you both. Also in staff, we had 2 promotions last month. Ellis Foley has been promoted to Senior Environmental Planner, and Troy Woodyard to Principal Graphic Designer 2. Congratulations to both of them, and great work from the both of them.
Congratulations.
Okay, I'm going to move to some new news, and this is, if I can share my screen, want to update the board on our Planning Smarter schedule for 2022. Normally we try to give this some attention during the work program presentations, but as you know, that was pretty well consumed by that document itself and that program. What we have now is the schedule, and Planning Smarter is our, it's been around for many years. Our communications section oversees it, but it involves the work of the entire Planning Commission. It's where we have educational courses, events that highlight specific issues and involve our partners as well, if my battery doesn't die. And so the course in community planning is something we do with the PMPI, State Planning Association. So that is on tap, but we had some hiatus from that during the pandemic, but I'm glad to see that's back on the calendar, and we will be sponsoring and participating in that. Our first public event is the strategies to enhance walking and bicycling in your community. It will be in May. Specific time and date and location are still to be announced. But we are looking at an exciting place where it can be a hybrid, where we go and see some work that's been done, and then get together and be able to have virtual people join us for presentations. We want to involve a lot of county participants who have done recent projects and can talk about those and share their experiences. And then next we have some more PMPI courses, the course in zoning, the course in subdivision and land development review. And these dates actually need to be updated from last year. And then our Hot Topics event, we did this last year for the first time. It will be in June 2022. And this will be a hybrid session where we take 3 or 4 really important topics that are on the pulse of what's happening and give about 20 minutes of detailed presentation and discussion on those. It went really well last year. We learned a few things and we're looking forward to doing that again. Stay tuned for the topics. We're deliberating over what those will be now, always up to the last minute to determine what's most interested and what we want to give attention to. Some more courses again. And then our third public event is the Investing in Open Space, Montgo's Return on Environment Study. This study is actually being wrapped up this month, and we're talking about different outreach and publication opportunities with that. One of those will be a significant public meeting in the fall to highlight the report and also talk about recent projects, what value they have brought to their communities and how they impact their surroundings. So look forward to that. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting information as well as participants in that event. And then we close as usual each year with the Montgomery Awards celebration in November, November 16th. That you can put on your calendars now. That also will be the date of a board meeting, as is usual. And again, we'll follow up as we did last year with both physical and hybrid participation. And that's it. So if you have any thoughts or comments or anything, feel free to contact me. But I wanted to pass that on. You received the brochure in your email yesterday, I believe.
Thank you.
And then a couple, just want to highlight a few grant awards that have come in recently. The county continues to do very well in bringing in outside money to get projects done, and Planning Commission is often big participants in a lot of that. DCNR had its C2P2 round announced recently. There was 70 million awarded across the state. 3.1 million was awarded in Montgomery County to 14 municipalities, as well as 2 nonprofits in the county. So we had 3.73 million total awarded in Montgomery County, about 5% of the total statewide. A big one for us was almost $400,000 going to the completion of the Schuylkill River Trail, the 422 connector, which will bridge the gap between the western edge in Lower Pottsgrove, along with the new portion being opened up I think next month in Chester County, across the 422 bridge. So that's a definite highlight. We also saw 500,000 go to Natural Lands, who are helping fund the acquisition of a conservation easement on the Girl Scout camp at Laughing Waters property in New Hanover and Upper Frederick Townships. Montco is providing the bulk of that funding at over $2 million towards that easement acquisition. And this grant kind of closed off the gap and made it a reality. So we're looking forward to that. And then finally, just want to acknowledge 161,000 grant to Upper Salford Township to assist with the acquisition of approximately 22 acres known as the Clemens property for open space and passive recreation. The county is involved with a 1-to-1 required grant match in supporting that. So that project will move forward as well. 2 other programs, the Arley Automated Red Light Enforcement Funding Program. Montco got the 2nd highest in the state from that program behind Philadelphia. 28 projects around the state. We had 4 projects, one in Hatboro, Limerick, Upper Hanover, and Whitemarsh. These are for intersection improvements, often dealing with signalization updates and improvements. And then finally, the CFA multimodal awards. This was actually the end of last year. This was over 84 million statewide. Monco had 11 projects awarded for over $7 million and almost 9% of the statewide amount. The largest projects in that group was in Lower Providence for the Park Eagleville Crawford intersection construction, 1.75 million, 1.65 million to Upper Moreland for the Willow Grove Turnpike interchange improvements, and 1 million to East Norriton for a sidewalk along Whitehall Road. And you also received the events update for the upcoming month. Just 3 events I wanted to highlight on that. Tomorrow, the Congresswoman Madeline Dean and her staff are hosting a webinar for municipalities and managers and representatives across the county in her district to talk about the new bipartisan infrastructure law and what's happening with that and what it means. Our own Matt Edmond will be participating on that panel. It'll be a virtual event. And then on Friday, also with Congresswoman Dean, she's hosting a press event. Our county commissioners and myself will all be speaking along with the Secretary of Transportation for the state. And we'll be talking again about infrastructure investment with the BIL and what the county's doing. And then finally, the EAC Network Conference on February 26th. Drew is a co-presenter at that. This is a statewide event for Environmental Advisory Council members. And we'll be talking about grant opportunities and grant applications in that with that group. I think that will close it off. Whoa, we're 3 minutes over.
That's okay.
My apologies.
It's quality, right? Quality.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much, Scott. It's busy. We have a very busy agency.
Yes.
Busy time. So if there are any more comments from our board, I will suggest that we adjourn by common consent. Are there any objections to that? Okay. Well, everybody stay well and we'll see you next week. Thank you again for your participation and your support. We always appreciate it. Have a good one.
Have a great day. Thanks.
Thank you.